Um, Hello to everybody. Thank you for taking the time to join in. I'm Alison Abbott, the Director of Communications for the WLPGA, and as I think many of you know, we're thrilled that communications is now one of the 4 WLPGA goals. What I'd like to do, I'm delighted that Bridget Perino from Inova, who is our Communications Goal Chair, is here with us. I'm going to hand over to Bridget for her to give an introduction on the goal and your vision for this. Bridget, over to you.
Thanks, Alison. I'm delighted to be able to join you today to kick off this update on the COM activity. It's been a busy time. There's been a lot going on. So if we can move to the next slide, I want to just recap our goals in this particular area. We have 3 main objectives of this COM pillar, communications pillar. And first of all, the first one is externally focused, enhancing our global positive image. And we've got some exciting work that's going on in that area. The bulk of the update today will be in all of the various programs that are going on external communications. Alison's going to run through that for us. Also empowering our own, there's some work that we're doing there on internal communications as well, making sure that our members have the assets that they need, they have the right messages, and we're involving them as well and empowering them with opportunities to participate with the organization, to get out there and also represent us externally as well. And then, of course, as always, inspiring action, LPG Week, one of my favorite weeks of the year, a week of networking, learning, camaraderie, and as you've heard from Esther Azouz already this morning, we've got an exciting program, and you've seen also from Nikos, we've got a new science conference embedded in that. So that is definitely going to inspire, I hope, a lot of action. Once again, the 2023 event. But we have a lot of challenging times out there for LPG and petroleum-based, fossil-based energy and fuels. But as you've heard from Nikos and also from Michael, there's a lot going on around the edges, and LPG is, as we saw in LPG Day, it's acclaimed worldwide. It's a wonderful energy, clean burning. It has a lot going for it. So, the efforts of this group are really to focus in on help the members with the right messaging, and as an organization, provide a service to the members in terms of the activities that we're doing. So I'm going to pass over to Alison to walk us through quite a bit of activity that's been going on so far. Thank you, Alison.
Oh, thank you, Bridget. I appreciate you having got up so early as well to join us. And with your leadership on this, we're getting through a lot. What I'm going to do in the next sort of 20 minutes or so is just focus on 2 things. Our external communication activities, to give you a snapshot of what we're doing, and then a really important, almost like a new initiative, which is about the name of the WLPGA. So here's a list of the core activities that we do. We're creating a core communications committee, which will be a very small, tight committee that we're launching at the end of next week, really to sort of help us be on the right, support Bridget and myself to make sure that we're on the right lines for this. I will talk about the Ambassador Network and the presence at external events and thought leadership shortly. And LPG Day, I will talk about shortly. We're looking at creating, in conjunction with Michael, a global positioning document, which is a new piece to really show where LPG is and what it's used for around the world. But that will marry with a lot of the other work that we're doing. We have updated media outreach, and as you're going to see from LPG Day, we have a really punched up social media outreach. You've heard about the focused campaigns that we run. Most of them fall under Indeed advocacy, but they are also managed by the communications group. We have a podcast series, if you like, or they're a bit longer than a podcast, which is called LPG Talks. Our guests for this year include the Spark Plus Africa Fund, which should be launched next week. Shannon Watt, who's the inspirational head of the Canadian Propane Association, and Rob Bylis, who's from the Stockholm Environment Institute. So keep an eye out for those. They're sort of 8 to 10 minute interviews, but they have great snippets. Also online, I'm sure that many of you will have attended our webinar series. We run 6 each year. We run them with our digital partner, Anova. This year already, we've covered safety, innovation, and women in LPG. And just next week, we have an awesome looking webinar on the energy transition. So we'll be sending out, registration has gone out for that today. And we're looking at doing a marine in September. I'll skip that one. I want to talk a little bit about external speaking opportunities, because now that COVID is over, we're able to move around significantly, and we're able to speak at many, many events. And we have been doing this quite a lot over the last few months. However, many of these events are what I term internal events. They're our fellow trade association events. They're LPG events around the world, which is fantastic because it's an opportunity for us to also learn. However, we need to externally amplify our message beyond the LPG industry. So we're working with our trusted consultancy, FTI, who we've worked with on several initiatives to look at exactly this. We are at this moment refining our external events list. That is identifying those really key global events where LPG should have a voice. We've cut down a list of some 60 to around 10. And what FTI will help us with is build campaigns to acquire speaking slots at these events, but not just the speaking slot. It will be accompanied by a full mini campaign, which will comprise media outreach, thought leadership to back it up, and of course, social media. So that's quite exciting, and that's going to carry on not just this year, but going forward to next and the year after. This marries really well with our ambassadors program, which I'm sure you've heard about. It's when we can't be everywhere and there are so many opportunities. So we are asking our senior industry council fellows to speak on behalf of WLPGA. It helps amplify our voice. Pam Inderjeet, who is the head of of Oryx Energies in South Africa, has already done this at the very important Africa Energy Indaba in South Africa. And this kind of works very well with the work that FTI are doing. We also, you're our members, you invest in us, and we have lots and lots of opportunities to enhance your visibility as well. For example, the work that you're seeing that we're doing with Anova, our webinars. We've got little opportunities in our newsletter, The Voice, to have articles, to have interviews. And we have with Argus snapshot, which is for members only. So lots of opportunities. And if you have something that you think, I'd like to do this, get in touch with us, because we're open to your thoughts. But now moving on to what is so far, I would argue, has been the highlight of our year. I'm sure that everybody has in their agenda the 7th of June, LPG Day. We had a target this year of significantly increasing the outreach. So we worked again with FTI because we felt that they can help us reach beyond. So the figures here are, for us, pretty impressive. We had a campaign that sort of was a week up to LPG Day, culminating in the day itself. We had over 4.6 million impressions. The work that we did reached around 457,000 Twitter users. That's just the tweets that we produced. Similarly with LinkedIn, 3,600 engagement, reaching over 114,000 LinkedIn professionals. You can see clearly we focused on Twitter and LinkedIn, but we did operate on our other channels as well, so YouTube and Facebook. But we always focus on LinkedIn and Twitter. How does that increase to last year? Well, for Twitter impressions, we had an increase of over 20,000% compared to last year. And in terms of Twitter engagement, that's actually the reactions, an increase of over 600%. And LinkedIn engagement, an increase of over 200%. So I think this sort of shows that we don't operate with significant budgets, but I think it shows that with putting your shoulder to the wheel, if you like, we can do it. And if we can do it on this one day, how can we take that forward to do it throughout the year? So Camille Pierron, shout out to her because she did an amazing job with this. Took a lot of work, but I think it shows the impact that we can have. And these are just a few examples of how creative our members were. We saw some fantastic outreach. So connect with us every day. Here are our handles on the most important channels that we operate on. Allow me to move on now to the second element that I'd like to talk about, which is reviewing our name. That's the name of the association, not the product. So we've not always been the World LPG Association. When we started, we were the World LPG Forum. We became, and when I joined, we became the World LP Gas Association. And we changed, we dropped the gas and we became the World LPG Association. So we have evolved our name in response to stakeholder perception and changing activities. So what's changing now? Because things are changing now and they're changing at a speed. We're seeing increased anti-fossil fuel lobbying, growing legislation against fossil fuels, and the perception that fossil fuels are the source of all evil. There's also a trend of fellow associations shifting away from LPG in their name. And there's also, really critically, changing our activities. We're not only looking at LPG. We don't forget LPG, it's our baby product, if you like, but we've got renewables and we're looking at DME and other molecules. So we need to lead rather than lag with our name. So these are just a couple of reasons why a different name may be more advantageous. We're no longer just LPG. We should no longer simply be defined by fossil. Our activities continue to be defined by membership, who also may not solely be fossil. And this is our professional window to the outside world. I'm not talking about greenwashing here. I'm talking about demonstrating to bodies such as IRENA and some of the other UN bodies that are reluctant or even refuse to connect with us because of our name. So that was kind of the history. We've done our due diligence about this, and the process to go through this was agreed during the Industry Council meeting in Tokyo in February. We immediately created a task force comprising a vast range of members of WLPGA. On the 17th of April, we held a meeting with the task force and we reviewed a SWOT to change the name, and we reaffirmed the process. On the 11th of May, at our next meeting, we agreed the pathway, and I'll explain the pathway too, as we had two options. Either do we create an umbrella organisation where we have WLPGA under this, renewables, other molecules, allows us to maintain WLPGA with an upper naming level window title, or option two, do we have a direct name change? We just go change the name. Less confusing and a direct change. The task force agreed that we would go for this option too, a direct name change. It was felt it would be the most easy to approach, easy to explain, and easy to execute. We offered up a group of names for discussion and thought, and after much deliberation, it was agreed that we would propose the name the World Liquid Gas Association. So you can see that it's not a dramatic change at all, but it's a maybe not so subtle nod to the direction we're going in. We only want to do this once. We don't want to be sitting here again in another 3 years discussing this. So where are we now? We will present this to the General Assembly in Rome during LPG Week for ratification. We will accompany this with a rename toolkit. We need to look at what our URL will be. We have bought worldliquidgas.com and .org anyway, because we feel that that's a secure investment. Of course, we'll need a new logo, a new URL, email, etc. And in fact, my team and I, we've put together a fairly comprehensive action plan to go through everything that we need to go through. Behind it's like the little analogy of the swan. There's a lot of work to do. In terms of communicating this, we're going to have two ways of communicating this. To you, our members, we need to make sure that everybody who's our member is aware that we will have changed our name. Many of you have our logo with a link to our website on your own websites, and you do make lots of acknowledgements towards being a member. So we need to make sure, our job is to make sure that you know and that you have this toolkit to hand. In terms of communicating this more widely to our external audience, to the Holy Grail, the media, those UN bodies, at the moment, our position is that we will have more of a soft launch. We don't need to make a big song and dance about this. And we will start developing this launch approach as we go post Rome. My final slide is just the timescale. I wanted to demonstrate that this has been quite a lengthy process. We spoke to a lot of fellow associations who have already changed their names. In Europe, we now have the European Liquid Gas Europe, the UK Liquid Gas UK, France Gas Liquide here in France. So there's a precedent for fellow associations going along this route. So we're currently at phase 2. Phase 1 was the creation of the task force. Phase 2 was the meeting in Tokyo. Phase 3 now, we're making the recommendation to the council ahead of LPG week, which will allow, hopefully, final approval in Rome. And then we'll have the public launch of the new name as we go along. And then phase 3, which will be Q4 and going through to next year, it's the project plan that I alluded to earlier. So that's where we are. Thank you very much. That's where we are in terms of the name change process. That concludes my comments. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Alison. And just to do a quick wrap up, obviously there's been a lot of activity going on in the comms area toward meeting our objectives, and the major project of changing the name is a very exciting project. It feels very pivotal in the history of time of what we do here. So, stay tuned for that. But thank you very much, Alison, for that detailed update on where we're at and all the work that has transpired to get us to this unanimous point with this universally agreed upon name of World Liquid Gas Association. We look forward to seeing next steps in this project. Thanks, everyone.